Good morning and welcome to Thursday's Maths. So today is carrying on from yesterday's lesson. I think we will find this nice and easy. We are calculating the volume of a cuboid using the formula we started to look at yesterday, which is length times width times height, or L times W times H. Right, let's get started. First things first then, what is volume? So you should have this STEM sentence written down from yesterday. If you don't, now is the time to write it down. So what is volume? Well, say it with me. Volume is the amount of space inside a 3D shape. And 3D means 3 dimensions. It means length times width times height. And to calculate volume, we can count the cube units that make up that shape. And that was what we were looking at yesterday. Using this then, can you circle the shapes that have a volume of 10 centimetres cubed? Pause the video and have a go. Answer time then for this little fluency first. So we need to have a look at each shape and count the cubes, because 1 cube is 1 cubic centimetre. It's a centimetre times a centimetre times a centimetre. So if you count the cubes, you will find the volume. So for A then, it's got a base layer of 3 times 2, which would be 6. And then it's got it's got 4 on the top, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So A would have a volume of 10 centimetres cubed. For B then, you can see it's got a width of 2 and a length of 5 and a height of 1. So 2 times 5 is 10, times 1 is 10. So there's 10 cubes, which means the volume is 10 centimetres cubed. C then, well, we must have a base layer of 4 cubes, otherwise the other ones would be falling down. And then we've got a layer of what would be 3 cubes, but ones you can't see. And then there's another layer of 3 cubes, so 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So all of these shapes, although they look very different, all have a volume of 10 centimetres cubed. Okay then, next step in our fluency first is this. Can you work out the volume? This time, I want you to try not to count the cubes, but try and think about the formula that we are using today, which is volume equals length times width times height. So try and look at the first one, work out what do I mean by length, what do I mean by width, and then what do I mean by height? And then look at the second one and try that as well. Pause the video, off we go. Right then, answer time. So if we look at the top one, you can really call the length and the width whichever way around you want. It doesn't really matter. You might also hear it called breadth or maybe depth. It doesn't really matter, okay? As long as you get the idea that there are kind of 2 dimensions that make up that base bit, and then you've got the 3rd dimension of height. So I can see that it's got a length of 2 centimetres or 2 cubes. It's got a width of 2 cubes, which means 2 centimetres, and the height is just 1. So to work this out, I would do 2 times 2, which is 4, times 1, which is 4 centimetres cubed. Bottom one then, I can see that the base bit is the same. I've got 2 centimetres times 2 centimetres, but this time the height is also 2 centimetres. So I'm going to do 2 times 2 times 2. So 2 times 2 is 4. Times 2 is 8. This is also the same as 2 cubed, 2 times 2 times 2, and my answer is then 8 centimetres cubed. Hopefully you can see that this is really similar to counting the cubes. It's just a much more efficient way of doing it. So every time you're working out the base layer by doing 2 times 2, which is 4, and then how many rows of that base layer have you got? Well, you've got 2 rows, so you times it by 2. So for volume today, it is length times width times height. It's discover time. Here is our discover for today. So we've got 2 children who look like they are in school. We've got Aki and we've got Kate. So Aki has got a box, and that box is 4 centimetres wide by 4 centimetres long by 4 centimetres high. What can you tell me about this box? Well, apart from the fact it's 4 by 4 by 4, hopefully you can tell me that it must be a cube, because that tells me that all the dimensions are the same. So Aki has got a cube. Kate's box, what's something you could tell me about Kate's box? Well, Kate's box has got a length of 4 centimetres, it's got a width of 5 centimetres and it's got a height of 3 centimetres. Is Kate's box a cube? No, because the dimensions are not the same. So Kate's box is a cuboid. Right then, nice, easy discover. Can you work out the volume of both of these containers, both of these boxes? So can you work out, if you were to put little cubes, little 1 centimetre cubed cubes into these boxes, how many cubes would fit? What would the volume be? And remember, volume is the space inside a 3D shape. It is width times length times height. Off you go. Right, answer time then. So the first one was Aki, and Aki had a cube. And the dimensions of this cube were 4 centimetres times 4 centimetres times 4 centimetres. So volume is length times width times height. So I would do 4 times 4, which is 16, times by 4 is 64. And my units, I've done centimetres times centimetres times centimetres. So it's centimetre cubed. So my answer would be 64 centimetres cubed. Hopefully at this point, you're starting to understand why, although we can just count the cubes, it's not the most efficient way. It's going to take you quite a long time to count 64 cubes. Whereas if we do it this way and we use our multiplication skills, it's a lot easier. For the other one then, which was Kate's, and Kate had a cuboid, the volume would be 4 times 5 times a height of 3. So 4 times 5 is 20. Times by 3 is 60 centimetres cubed. Question. Do we have to do length times width times height? Do I have to do 4 times 5 times 3? Or could I do 3 times 5 times 4? Well, 3 times 5 is 15, times 4 is 60. I could have done 4 times 3, which is 12, times 5, 60. So it doesn't actually matter which order you do this multiplication in. The reason we teach you length times width times height is it's easier to visualise the length times width, which links with area, and then you times it by the height, which is how many layers of it that you've got. But you can do the multiplication in whichever order you find easiest. Well done. Hopefully you got those right. Right, let's move on to the think together. So if you haven't already, write think together down into your books, and your working out for this bit is going to go under that heading. So for question 1, we've got A and B. Can you work out the volume of each of these 3D solids? There is some help for you on the right hand side if you need it. For B, there is 2 levels. It's just one of them, it's not showing as cubes, but I think you can work that out. So have a go at the volume. Off we go. Answer time for this part of the think together then. Well, for A, we go, it's already actually given you the dimensions on the right hand side, or you could have counted. So 4 times 3 times 3, I would have done 4 times 3 first, which is 12, times that by 3, 36 centimetres cubed. For B, you could have done it in any order, so your dimensions are 5 times 5, and you can see that the height is 2. I've done 5 times 2 first, which is 10, then times it by 5, which is 50. Nice and easy. Okay, next question. This is part C. Have a go. Well, hopefully for this one, you can see that the width is 10, the length is 4, and the height is 3. So like I said before, it does not matter which order you multiply these numbers in. Personally, I would probably do 3 times 4, which is 12, and then times it by 10, which is 120 centimetres cubed. You could have done the width times the length first of all, which would be 40, and then times it by the height, 40 times 3. 4 times 3 is 12, 40 times 3 is 120. It does not matter which way round you do it. As long as you are multiplying the length times the width times the height in some order, that will get you the volume. Well done. Now, I think that this is fairly easy. I am hoping you are flying through it as you have been doing the previous few lessons. So today I'm going to give you the challenge from the Think Together. So here we go. This cuboid has a volume of 40 centimetres cubed. Can you find the missing height? Right, what's different about this question? Well, with this question, it's given us the volume, but it hasn't given us all the measurements. So this time we know what the volume is, we know what the length is, and we know what the width is. Can we use this to work out the height then? Well, let's think about it. Normally, we would do length times width times height equals the volume. So I could write down, we've got the length equals 5. So 5 times the width, which is 4, times something, I'm going to draw a box, equals 40 centimetres cubed. Can you work out what that missing measurement would be? So here it is written down. What would go in that missing box? So if I do the first bit of the question, 5 times 4 is 20. So 20 times something is 40. It would be 20 times 2. So the missing height must be 2 centimetres because 5 times 4 times 2 would make 40 centimetres cubed. Let's have a go at B then. Can you work out the answer to this one? A cube has a volume of 1,000 centimetres cubed. Find the missing length. Okay, let's look at the clues in the question. What do we know? Well, we know the volume is 1,000 centimetres cubed, and we know that length times width times height is volume. So we know that something times something times something is going to equal 1,000 centimetres cubed. Still more than a few options for that one then. Let's look at the question again then. Right, a cube. So this is telling us it's a cube. What do we know about cubes? We know that all the lengths are the same. So we know then that the same length times the same width times the same height is 1,000. So a number times itself 3 times. A number cubed is 1,000. What number cubed makes 1,000? Well, hopefully you can tell me that 10 times 10 times 10 would be 1,000. 10 times 10 is 100, times 10, 1,000. Well done. Right then, it is an independent activity. So we are going to have a go at 3 different questions. Here are the first 2. Pause the video, have a go. And here is question 3. Pause the video, have a go, and then I'll go through the answers in a moment. Answers then. So hopefully you found these nice and straightforward. So 1A, 4 times 2 times 1 would be 8 centimetres cubed. For B, I did 3 times 3, which was 9, and times it by the height, which was 4. So 9 times 4 is 36 centimetres cubed. C, the diagram is a little bit confusing, but it's trying to show you that it's got a width of 3, a length of 3, and a height of 3, which tells me it is a cube. 3 times 3 times 3, or 3 cubed, is 27 centimetres cubed. D, 5 times 4 is 20, times by 3 is 60 centimetres cubed. Right, for 2 then, there's several ways you could have worked this out. So you could work out 8 times 7 and then times it by 5. You could do 8 times 5 and then times it by 7. Or you could do 7 times 5 and then times it by 8. So you can multiply these 3 numbers in any order. It does not matter. You would still get the same answer. Give yourself a tick if you got all those right. So for this last question then, this is one where we know the volume and we know some of the measurements, but we don't know all of them. So we need to work out the missing dimensions. So volume is width times length times height. So I've written 480, because that's the volume, equals 30, because that's the width, times 2, which is the height, times something. I've put a box for that something because we don't know what the length is. So 480 equals 60 times something, because 30 times 2 is 60. So 60 times something is 480. Right. Well, I know that 48 is 6 times what? 6 times 8. Perfect. So 480 then is 60 times what? Because 480 is 10 times bigger. The 60 is 10 times bigger, which means the other number doesn't need to be. So 480 is 60 lots of 8. So my answer for the first one should be 8 centimetres. The other way you could have done it is 480 divided by 60 was what? So 48 divided by 6 would be 8. So 480 divided by 60 would be 8 as well. So the length is 8 centimetres. For B then, again, we know the volume, we know the height, we know the width, but we don't know the length. So 480 centimetres cubed, or 480, equals 5 times 8 times something. So I'll multiply the bits that I do know. 480 equals 40 times something. Okay then, so 48 equals 4 times what? Well, 48 is 4 times 12. So 480 equals 40 times 12. So your answer for B should be 12 centimetres. Really well done if you got those right. Take a picture, send me your work for today. Well done, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.